Hi, this is Brian Wicklund. Happy New Year here at Garfinkel Schwartz. I'm coming to you today from our Maitland office in Florida. We also have an office on the Space Coast in Cocoa Beach, Florida. But I travel everywhere all across the country to help overseas contractors that get injured while they're serving their duties overseas as civilian contractors. For this year, we've been tracking some potential conflicts that I wanted to share with you. This year could be the year of a lot of different conflicts all around the world, and what I would like to do is just recommend to you if you're going to go to one of these places that I mentioned, and I wanted to make sure that I recommend to people that are going over there for their own safety and for their own sanity to give some tips for you because these places are pretty remote. You don't know what kind of medical care there would be if you get injured, and there are certain precautions that you can take to make it a lot easier on you and your family if you do get injured, especially when you have to deal with an insurance company under the Defense Base Act. The conflicts that we're tracking that could potentially become big, requiring overseas contractors, are in Pakistan. We're already in Syria. I already have some clients that have been asked to go to Syria. Lebanon, Egypt, the Ukraine, Turkey, even the Philippines and China could come into play. Vietnam, North Korea, and of course, potentially going back to Iraq. We've been tracking these areas, and when conflicts do occur, if they do, and you're a contractor and you're going to go to one of these countries, you're just not going to know what type of medical care there's going to be in an emergency if you do get injured, especially in a military combat zone where you could get bombed or things could happen that are very serious. You don't want to rely on the insurance company sending you to these remote areas where the medical care may or may not be adequate. My advice under the Defense Base Act is that you're allowed to have your first choice of physician. It's in the law. There's a form you can fill out saying this is who I want to be my first choice of physician. So my recommendation is before you go over there, before you go to a place like Pakistan or North Korea, have a family member earmark certain doctors in certain fields, namely probably an orthopedic surgeon you should find through your primary care physician. Potentially respiratory issues could arise. You might want to ask your primary care physician if there's a pulmonologist that you might have a name for. Any other types of injuries you can think of that could happen that could affect you in a negative way. It's always nice to have doctors' names and phone numbers on hand so that you can present it directly to the insurance company immediately, or your family member can on your behalf, and say, look, I'm injured. I got injured on the job. I want to get out of this country. I want to go back home for my treatment, and this is the person I want to go see. And even if you don't necessarily know that doctor, but that doctor is in your hometown, and you know their specialty, it's always better to get back home as fast as you possibly can to get out of those countries and to get out of the hands of the insurance company. Now, we have a global conflict tracker that updates itself pretty much every day or every week or so. We look at that every day to determine whether or not civilian contractors are going to be going over to these countries that I just named. Like I said, we may or may not, but the global conflict tracker that we track is usually pretty accurate, and these countries continuously pop up. My advice is twofold. Number one, because you're going to be going to these remote countries, before you even get there, on your checklist, you should have a first choice of physician in your hometown that your family members know about. You have their phone number and their address. And what this does is if you get injured over, say, in Pakistan or in North Korea, you don't want to rely on doctors that the insurance company or the company are going to provide for you in these countries. You want to get home as fast as you can. You want to give them your first choice of physician, which you have the right to under the Defense Base Act. There's a form that can be filled out that's sent to the Department of Labor saying, I want this person to be my first choice physician, and they cannot refuse it. If you don't know that, you could be going to some doctors in Pakistan or Vietnam or China that may or may not have credentials. You have no idea. You're stuck in a foreign country listening to an insurance company who's trying to save money on you. So get home as fast as you can. Before you go there, put on your checklist to get an orthopedic surgeon, a primary care physician, maybe some other doctors of different specialties in your hometown that your family members know, so if something happens to you immediately, you have that first choice of physician that you're asking for, and that'll get you home faster, safer, and you'll get the adequate care that you need from the start before bad things start happening throughout the time and you're not getting the care that you need. Number two, We don't charge anything to monitor cases. We don't charge anything ever anyway. Under the law, we get paid separately only if we get benefits for you, not a percentage. It's a separate hourly rate that we get that the insurance company or company has to pay us if we get benefits that you've been denied. With that in mind, it would be good to have an attorney's name, Garfinkel Schwartz preferably, and my name, Brian Wicklund, before you even go there, so that if something happens to you, if you're treated unfairly, if you get injured, you have an attorney on your side right off the bat. Before anything bad can happen, any crazy denials happen, you have someone tracking your case on your side as your lawyer, even before the conflicts may arise, even before court cases have to happen or informal conferences have to happen, even before they deny anything. It's always nice to have an attorney on hand for free to make sure that you know that they're not denying you what your benefits are, what your average weekly wage is, whether they're short-suiting you on that, whether or not the doctors that they're providing are adequate, or whether they're going to try to send you back to work too early. Things like that. We can also work with your first choice of physicians to make sure that you're getting the proper care and the proper reports are being done on your behalf, so it's easy to prove the case if that so happens that we have to go to a judge and try to prove the case in the future. So just a couple tidbits. Good luck out there. Again, this is Brian Wicklund from the Maitland, Florida office of Garfinkel Schwartz signing out. Thanks a lot. Bye.